in the next time, the Udayin would be killed, okay, by the Shishunaga. Okay, now the Shishunaga was Amatya. Amatya means the minister. Okay, now Shishunaga was the minister to the Haranyaka, especially the Udayin. Okay, the king from the Haryanka Dynasty. So Shishunaga would be cutting the Udayin from his path, okay, and overthrew the Nagadashaka, okay, that is Haranyaka Dynasty, and contested Avanti. Okay, so Avanti was somewhere here, okay, and here the Shishunaga would be again coming to Avanti. Okay, so here the Avanti, okay, was ended. Avanti ended in from the power, and here again the Pataliputra became much more stronger. Okay, so as and when time proceeds, Pataliputra would be going much more stronger than other cities. Okay, now after that it was Kalashoka, okay, or the Kakavarna, okay, Ashoka, okay, or the Kakavarna, okay, who attended the Second Buddhist Council, okay, that is 100 years after Mahaparinirvana, that is 100 years after the Samadhi of the Buddha. Okay, so here the Ashoka is relevant to the Second Buddhist Council. Second Buddhist Council. Who was the first? Who was the first? Of course, Ajatashatru, right? So Haryanka Dynasty, say it's Ajatashatru, and from Shishunaga Dynasty, it's Ashoka. Okay, now these are some of the minute details which UPSC will ask you. Okay, because Ajatashatru ka question had been asked, we will discuss it very deeply in upcoming discussion. Okay, we'll also solve all the PYQs. Now, after this Kala Ashoka, okay, now this Kala Ashoka, okay, was handled by the Shudra. Okay, now the Kala Ashoka would be also having some of the employees under him, okay, and he was cutted down by one of the Shudra employee. Okay, and from here this Shudra was no one but the Nanda. Okay, and from here we would be starting with the Nanda Dynasty. Okay, now the Shudra was working in the Shishunaga Dynasty, and he cuts down the Ashoka or Kakavarna. Okay, and after that he himself sits on the throne. Now this was a period when we would be also studying about our favorite hero, that is Kautilya. Okay, the Kautilya was one of the priest during this period. Okay, and this is only the period when he will curse the Nanda Dynasty, and then it is the Maurya Dynasty which will come in the power. So the story is quite interesting, but just you need to access the chronology of the rulers. Okay, we'll be also studying differently what was the Buddhism, what was the Jainism, how it evolved. Now that is the comprehensive topic in itself. Okay, but just imagine that we are studying the contemporary details first, and then we would be studying the Buddhism and the Jainism. Okay, so when the Nanda Dynasty comes into the power, now the Nanda Dynasty is said to be as a Shudra. Now if you again revisit the Varna system, okay, at the top there were Brahmins, right? At the second top they were Kshatriyas, right? Okay, and at the end there were Shudras. Okay, so Shudra, Nanda was one of the Shudra which was hired in the Shishunaga Dynasty, and as and when he finds the time, okay, he finds the right time, he cuts down the Kala Ashoka and sits on the throne. And from here it is the beginning of the Nanda Dynasty. So the first king is Mahapadmananda. Okay, so Mahapadmananda brought the Magadha Empire to its zenith. That is, the economical situation of the Magadha Empire would be rising more, or it would be seeing more growth stories during the Nanda Dynasty. And that is why you will see that the rulers of the Nanda Dynasty at the first would be very alert, would be very active. But it is said by many of the philosophical people or many of the intellectuals, as and when the economy rises at the peak, it is bound to fall due to the low activities. Okay, and the same happened during the Nanda dynasty. Now the Nanda dynasty was a dynasty which was seeing the empire at its peak, but the further Nanda, okay, the further Nanda rulers were much more lazy, and that is why you will see that the economical situation would be again coming down. Not that down. Why? Because majorly they would be having low security. Now up till here we have seen that the Greeks and the Persians who invaded during the latter Vedic period or after latter Vedic period, they didn't had an opportunity to conquer the Magad, and that is why Magad was much more secure. Okay, and especially during this time, now especially if we consider the Haryanka dynasty. Now Haryanka dynasty was such a dynasty which was not using the horses, they were using the elephants in their wars. Okay, so they used the elephants in their wars. Now this evidences are being present in various texts where the king Purushottam or the king Porus, okay, is said to be using the elephants, and that is why the Persian and the Greeks didn't dare to come inside the Indian subcontinent. Why? Because they were seeing such a huge animal for the first time. Okay, now the Persians, okay, or the Iranians who invaded India, they had invaded with the help of the horses. Now horse is a quite active animal, it is the fastest animal, but it can't resist against the strong opposition. Okay, so here the elephant used to stand strong. And as Magad dynasty, especially during the Haryanka dynasty, they had much more revenue collection. They had the strong economy. That is why they were able to, domesticate more elephants, much more elephants as compared to the other foreign invaders. So you will find that more of the foreign invaders would be finding it difficult to defeat these elephants during the wars. And that is why during this period, the rulers standed stronger than anyone else. But what happened during the Nanda dynasty? The post rulers of the Nanda dynasty were much more weaker and non-active. And that is why you will see that the Kautilya will take the help of Chandragupta, okay, and conquer the Nanda dynasty, and from here will study the Mauryan dynasty. Okay.